I'm Sevil Mikayilova.
And I'm Claude Salhani, and this is This Week in Focus. And this week we focus on the Southern Gas Corridor.
Southern Gas Corridor, which is an initiative of President Ilham Aliyev, is supposed to be the biggest project of the 21st century. Southern Gas Corridor will help the European Union to diversify its energy supplies and to act as a reliable energy source for decades.
Now, not everybody is happy about this, I take it, because the Russians have their own initiative that they're trying to put into motion.
If you mean Turkish stream, so I think it is an ideology, it is an idea, but it is not a reality. If you speak about Southern Gas Corridor, this is a reality.
It's a reality that has a good head start on the Russian project. It's also a reality that is costing $45 billion.
And still, it is a costly project, but has supporters, both financial, political, and economic supporters, who really sponsor the project and think it is reliable enough to ensure energy security for Europe.
It will save Europe. It will keep Europe warm in the future, won't it?
I think it will keep warm Europe because gas remains to be a very important energy, and which is undeniable, and even so independently who you are and who you represent, so you will admit that gas is important energy, and it will remain important for decades.
This competition between Russia and the Southern Gas Corridor consortium is relatively new, isn't it? I mean, it came about after the crisis in Ukraine, would you say? Is that not what it is?
Yeah, this has actually appeared after the Turkish stream appeared after Ukrainian event, but Southern Gas Corridor was initiated before, and I think that it has more grounds than this pipeline.
And it's fully supported by the EU.
Yes, it has full support from the European structures.
So the $45 billion, they should make that up pretty quickly, I would assume, because
there are wills and the desire, and even before the financial institutions, many influential financial institutions have already voiced their strong desire to finance the project because they see it as quite profitable, feasible, and they will finance, I think.
To help us understand a little bit more about this project, we are talking today to an expert, Andrej Tibold in Berlin. Andrej, welcome. Andrej Tibold, you are an independent analyst based in Berlin, looking after or following Eurasian energy issues. We're talking today about the Southern Gas Corridor, which is gaining new supporters as European energy security issues become more topical. The European Union is keen to diversify, obviously, its energy sources, supplies, and has stated that Azerbaijan is a reliable partner in this regard. However, there are other issues as well to consider. What is your take on this issue?
Yes, indeed, like you say, the Southern Gas Corridor has again become more of a priority in the European Union. There are several reasons for that, and like you say, Azerbaijan plays an important role as the first supplier of Caspian gas to the EU market. A lot has happened I would say of course, in the last 12 months, in the last year. But this is something that has been going on for a longer time. I mean, the Southern Gas Corridor has been on the EU's, let's say, the European agenda for almost, there have been initiatives going on for almost a decade and a half. In the late 90s, there were plans by some countries in the Caspian region and the Southern Caucasus and Turkey as well to already have some kind of a gas pipeline going to Europe. This is another chapter in this story, and it's an exciting story, of course, to keep track of. What this means now, in this these most recent developments, is that the biggest thing that has changed in this whole perspective is the EU's relation to Russia. And this has, again, to do with the Ukrainian crisis, loss of trust between both let's say, entities, And the feeling now in the EU is that, and in Brussels, that, I mean, this relationship has hit, one could say, bottom rock, and they're very eager to find alternatives. And this means not only alternative sources of gas, including Caspian, but it includes incentivizing renewables, energy efficiency, let's say the whole package.
Right.
So, Andrej, you mentioned that there were too many pipelines before the Southern Gas Corridor, and each of them have pluses and minuses. So they have their advantages and disadvantages. But at least the European Union stopped and chose the Southern Gas Corridor, as the last statements officially or unofficially say. So, how do you think, what was the advantage of Southern Gas Corridor at least to win this rival, at least in the first stage, let's say?
If you're looking at the advantages of the Southern Gas Corridor, I mean, from the beginning, it has been an alternative source of supply. I mean, it's been diversification has been the main stake here. It also means that it could also, what also is a benefit of the Southern Gas Corridor is that alternative sources of supply also are good for liquidity on gas markets.
Yeah.
Let's say the markets targeted by the Southern Gas Corridor are mainly located in Southeastern Europe, and these are still pretty much markets that are not that liquid. First hubs are appearing, but it's a different story from gas markets in Western and Northwestern Europe. So, I mean, more liquidity, more diversity, that is what the Southern Gas Corridor can bring to the European markets.
Now, Southern Gas Corridor has its, let's say, a very serious rival, Turkish Stream. Do you regard the Turkish Stream to be really a very serious rival to Southern Gas Corridor?
Well, again, I mean, this story of rivaling pipelines, like I said, it has been going on for quite some time now. And South Stream turning into Turkish Stream hasn't really changed much here. I mean, the volumes are still more or less the same. The Turkish Stream wants to ship to the EU market. The place, the location where this gas enters Europe has not changed much, from Bulgaria to Greece. So, in that sense, there is not much different there. What could perhaps be a challenge is that if you combine supplies through Turkish Stream with supplies from TANAP, I mean, if additional gas becomes available, and TANAP is projected at 31 BCM in 2026, if I'm correct, and maybe after that capacity could double, then you're talking about volumes of almost 100 BCM, coming from the one hand coming from Russia, the other hand coming from the Caspian. The question is, do we need that much gas in this part of Europe? So there could be, the question is, do we really need both these volumes? I mean, you need both sources, that is good, but do you need that much gas?
Let me ask you this question. The price, the cost of setting up this enterprise is humongous. How long will it take to pay for itself at that cost? I mean, we're talking about, what, $45 billion or something in that neighborhood?
Yes, these are very expensive projects indeed. And that is true. If you have pipelines that have capacity that is that big, you also need a good business case to be sure that you will be able to earn your money back with these pipelines. And business cases in both projects are different. I mean, if you look at South Stream, always has, let's say now it's Turkish Stream, the critics have always stressed that the commercial aspects of this project have been somewhat doubtful, and I think that is true to a certain extent, because the motivation behind South Stream and Turkish Stream wasn't just purely economic. Sure. From a Russian perspective, energy, let's say transit security, was something they were willing to pay for a bit more.
For Russia, this would be a a big hit if they didn't succeed, whereas the southern corridor would succeed, and the Russian initiative would take a back seat or fail. Don't you think it would be a tremendous setback for Russia, if anything else, from a prestigious point of view? No,
and it would be a setback if let's say it would be bypassed by the southern corridor, but I don't think that is what is going to be acceptable to Russia. If you look already at the investments that have been made in Russia itself for this infrastructure projects, they have spent $10 billion on their own southern corridor within Russia to the Black Sea, to this compressor station at Beregovaya, if I'm right, and the gas is available. The question is, in what way will it reach European and Turkish markets? So the first idea was to reach through Bulgaria, South Stream. This is obviously not working. Now the second option is Turkey. So investments that have been made, just to not have such a project would be a huge failure. So I think Russia will try its best to find a solution there. Question is, of course, what volumes will it export to the EU? The gas markets in southeastern Europe, their growth and their future demand is not the same as it was before. Like before, let's say the economic crisis, the financial crisis, and it's still not recovering in those rates that were anticipated. So, of course, internal European production is declining, so that would compensate partially for this lower demand. But then there is also the question of an internal infrastructure solution for Southeastern Europe, because with Nabucco there was an infrastructure solution reaching all the way to, let's say, Vienna, which later was called Nabucco West. South Stream was a project that was providing, let's say, integrated infrastructure solution for Southeastern Europe. These projects are not on the table right now, but both such a solution would be necessary for either TANAP or Turkish Stream, because you would otherwise have a bottleneck in Southeastern Europe. And if you want this gas to reach those markets, you would need such a pipeline.
Sure. But what is reality? There is a market in the European, in Europe, and Europe needs gas, and suppliers are in the east. So now we are speaking about two pipelines. One is IDER, which is Turkish stream, and one is Reality, which is Southern Gas Stream. So how do you think, will Europe accept these two pipelines? Will they sponsor these two pipelines, or do you think that it is too excessive for the European market?
Those two pipelines, they are actually outside of the European Union. So the European Union can't say, okay, you should or should not. Let's say the EU has not much of a legal power there, in the sense that they can prefer one or the other pipeline project. What the EU will see is that there will be a huge, let's say, bubble of gas at the Greek-Turkish border. And there the question is, again, what projects or what infrastructure projects are maybe more open or more flexible to go into some kind of a mutually satisfying solution in bringing this gas further from, let's say, the Turkish-Greek border into Southeastern Europe. And, if we talk about the Russian pipeline, the relations are not ideal anymore between Brussels and Russia. So a lot of trust has been lost there, and it will take a lot of effort and, energy to return to the former level. And in that sense, it perhaps is more beneficial to the Southern Gas Corridor players, participants, to find a mutual satisfying solution there. So it would be more in favor of the Southern Gas Corridor. Yes.
And my final question to you. So we have gas, we have pipelines here on table, and we have players, we have interested parties, we have sides who are unwilling, who are in the opposite. So how do you think, who will be the winners and who will be the losers from this gas pipeline platform?
I mean, gas has to be a winner, I think, in this game, so to say, because gas has lost a lot as the reputation of gas has suffered a lot in Europe in the past 10 years. And as a reliable fuel, because of political constraints and political tensions, gas has suffered a lot. But gas is actually quite a attractive energy source. I mean, it can be combined very easily with renewables. It's relatively clean compared to other fossil fuels. So, all players have a common interest, and that is that gas has a future in the EU. And if you look at the energy scenarios of the EU, you can see there is a role for gas, but it's going to disappear pretty soon after 2040, 2050. Whether that is realistic is another question, but it gives a clear signal that the EU doesn't have much of a high opinion of gas as an important energy source.
Right.
So but what project will come out? I think the cards are very strong for Southern Corridor at this moment. On the other hand, as I said, Russia has already invested a lot in its own infrastructure. They won't give up very easily to be pushed out of the Southern Corridor. Maybe there will be sort of a joint solution. I mean, where everyone can profit. Common infrastructure project within Turkey and common infrastructure project within the EU will be good for everybody.
Andrej Tibold in Berlin, we thank you very much for your participation today. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Andrej also confirmed my verse, so gas will remain important energy source.
No doubt, if you want to stay warm, absolutely. I think gas is the future. It's a clean energy too.
Yeah, and so the Southern Gas Corridor, I think, will and can act a reliable energy supplier for Europe, and I think that Europe will, till the end, sponsor this project.
And it will give them a brighter tomorrow.
Goodbye.